Variance analysis is the key piece of performance management reports because everyone must understand where the differences or the variances are and why they happened. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how to create actionable variance reports directly in Power BI using examples that every FP&A analyst works with: sales versus plan, cost versus budget, profit and loss reporting, and trend analysis with small multiples. Let's start. And if you'd like to follow along, you can start your own free trial of Zebra BI at zebrabi.com/trial. At the start of every month, FP&A and sales analysts would review how sales performed compared to plan. And they'd love to do it on a dashboard like this, because we can see that every one of the visuals uses variance analysis for every data point that we're showing, giving extra context and of course extra clarity to make our story even more understandable. Let's add another Zebra BI table here for a little more information of the performance of our business unit. First, we're going to start at the visualizations, and we're going to add a Zebra BI table. We're going to reposition them here where I already made some place for them, like this. Okay, and as you can see, we already have some placeholders here that are going to help us format the data in the International Business Communication Standards. Also, they're going to be vital for our variance analysis. Let's populate them and let me show you. If we go to our Data tab, we are going to add our groups from our business units to our categories, and then we're going to populate our values. Actuals, we're going to put into our values, and our previous year goes into previous year. And now let me stop you just for a second. As you could see, as soon as I popped in my measures, Zebra BI made the necessary calculations and calculated the absolute and relative variances, visualize them, and put them on the chart. All completely automatic without me having to do anything else. And it's going to do the same thing now when I add the plan. There we go. You can see that we have our absolute variance to plan here, but since we don't have enough space and what we want to do is focus on our plan, we can go ahead and simply hide this column with absolute variances to previous year, and again here with our relative variances to previous year, and just leave, there we go, our absolute and our relative variances towards plan. What we can also do is we can hide this previous year column here and this plan column here, and actually visualize our actual with an overlapped bar chart. So we can see clearly our previous year, our actual, and our plan. Another thing we could do just to focus on the really important business units is use our top and bottom and function, where we can simply say that we only want, let's say, 5 of our top performers on our table. And now we as the manager can focus on what's really important. But now let's go a little bit deeper and let's do a little bit of a deep dive into our business units. This is another Zebra BI table, and it's made very similarly to the one that you saw before. So maybe if I just open it up here, you can see that we simply populated our placeholders and the table was completed with, of course, again, all the variances versus plan calculated automatically. But now here is where the fun starts. Right now, our data sorted by our actual column to see our best performing products. But we can just as easily sort by variance to quickly spot our top and underperformance. Just simply come up to the column, click on it, and there we go. The data is sorted. Now, if we want to dig deeper, you can also expand or collapse hierarchies like you see here. And the best part is everything updates dynamically. No DAX, no manual setup, except for just a few simple measures that we had to create before. And once you've identified all of your main drivers, it's time to add the context. Find all the outliers or interesting data points and explain them for all viewers. This is the quickest way from data insights to action. Seeing the data sorted like this, it's pretty easy to see that hair care is doing really good for us, and such good performance deserves a comment. And that's exactly what we're going to start. We're going to start at our best performers and then also tackle our worst performers. To add a comment, we're going to simply go here, add annotations, add a comment, and pick. You can see that I can pick any data point, pick the specific data point that we want to comment. In our case, we want to put it here on the hair care business unit. And the best part is we don't have to really write too much about how much the number went up, because Zebra BI already does this for us. So hair care business unit up 11%. Why? Well, because an increase thanks to successful new product launches and marketing campaigns. A very, very small comment that can help our understanding a lot more. Now let me add the other comments and I'll show you how the finished dashboard looks in a second. Okay, now that we have our best performers, and you can also see that Zebra BI numbered the comments so you can easily weave a story and know exactly what data point you're referring to, let's do our worst performers now. First, we're going to start with, of course, the biggest one, which is baby care. So again, just click on add comment, and now let's put in our why, the explanation. Supply chain delays and increased input costs is what hindered baby care in this year. And now let's add a couple of more comments. When we're done adding comments, now we have a clearer picture and we can simply close out the annotation layer, and our report is ready to be shared. And it's important for me to tell you that everything here, everything that you see works out of the box, and I'm sure you'll agree that variance analysis allowed us to focus on the most important changes for our business. Something that's very important in the slew of information and data that we get every day. Next, let's look at some costs versus budget. We're going to be using our OPEX overview dashboard, and you can see we already have some KPIs created, but we do need some cost analysis. So let's go again to visualizations and add a Zebra BI table. Again, let's expand it because we have more space. And now we're going to build the visual just like we did before. Onto our categories, we are going to put our cost centers like this. And then to make it a hierarchy, we're going to also add our general ledger accounts. Let me just search for it right here, and we're going to put this underneath like this. There we go. And we already have a hierarchical table starting to form. Now we need our measures. We're going to use our actuals for values, our previous year for previous year, and of course our plan for our plan. And just like before, you see that everything happened automatically. The hierarchies were created, the variances were calculated, and everything was simply visualized itself by Zebra BI. Now it's important to say cost analysis is a bit different, as overspending usually signals problems. And as we can see right now, overspending seems like a good thing, right? But we can change this really fast. In our visualizations pane, we can simply search for an option called invert variance colors. It's right here. And with a single click of a button, our cost analysis makes sense. Now it's time for our analysis. Let's close these panes and let's look at the data. We can see that sales and marketing were doing pretty well. Both led to some cost savings. However, costs should never be analyzed in complete isolation. They're part of a bigger story, linked directly to revenues and profitability. And that's why it's very valuable to combine the tables with also KPI cards that we show above that show how changes in costs affect our profit margin. For example, The lower marketing and sales spend may seem like a saving, but here we can clearly see that it also led to lower revenues and weaker profitability. So let's add this comment first. Again, we're going to open up the annotations layer, add a comment, and we're going to put it here with marketing, like this. Now we have an interesting situation. As Zebra BI is completely responsive, we can see that it actually made our delta plan column for relative variances now as just a simple line as in a table. But we can change this. We have this really cool feature called size dots. When you don't have enough space, it still offers you a cool visualization so you can get the idea of exactly what kind of a change really happened. But we're going to go in and we're going to make our commenting a little bit smaller just to make a bit more room for the data. And now let's continue with our analysis looking at our underperformers. We see here finance. Let's add a comment for finance. So the biggest problem with our financing was that our interest rates are rising, and we just add that to our dashboard, and now anybody looking at our dashboard is going to know exactly what was going on. Now let's check our production. We can expand our hierarchy and we can see that actually the biggest impact was having to do with the costs of raw materials. And of course this is because we shifted our production model, which means that previously outsourced components are now being built or produced in-house. So let's add another comment here just to make this clear to everybody. There we go. And the cool thing here now is that even if we close up our hierarchy, we still get a little showcase here. Oh, that there's a comment that you're not seeing, and when we open it, the comment, of course, for your storytelling pops up. So with the Zebra BI table, you get this amazing combination of dynamic and also automatic storytelling elements that helps you understand your business even more. And as the year end approaches, reports like this help each budget owner know where they stand, how much of their budget remains, or whether they've already overspent. And of course, adding short data link comments like we see here makes this even more powerful. They connect financial outcomes to actual business actions, like our decision to bring production in-house, which increased raw material costs, but reduced logistic expenses. The result is a cost analysis that's clear, consistent, easily understood, even by your non-financial stakeholders. Now let's put all we've learned up to now to good use and tackle one of the most important financial reports, which is the income statement, or of course the profit and loss statement. So let's just start to build it. First, we're gonna add our Zebra BI tables again, make them a little bit bigger so we can use all of our canvas. And now we're going to build them just like we did before. So we're going to go to data, and we're going to start first by adding our accounts to our category like this. And then we're also going to add our account group to create hierarchies. So now we can open and close different account groups to show different accounts. Now we're going to add some actual values here like this. And well, this is pretty much in line of what you would expect to see in Power BI as an income statement. But of course, Zebra BI gives us a little bit more than all the others, which is a little bit more of added visualizations. So first, we're gonna cancel the sort as it was sorting by the largest number. And now we actually have the sort correct. And we can go in, and we can go in and choose the calculation waterfall chart. This is the best chart to use for visualizing financial statements because it shows how the calculations, so how the flow of the calculations between different accounts then leads to our net income. And here we can go in and let's say for cost of goods sold, simply right click and invert, There we go. And you can see now, this is why the calculation waterfall, the revenues are going up, and then clearly the costs are actually moving us back down, with gross profit then should be a result. So we can right click, click result. There we go. And now it's pretty logical, right? So we made 23.3 million revenue, 7.5 million of these were costs, and we are left with a gross profit of 15.8 million. Now this is all great, but we can go one step further and actually help us automate a little bit more of this process if we have something called a category class. If we add our category class measure into the category class placeholder, you can see that the P&L builds itself. And not only the top groups, but it takes into account all of the other groups as well, just as you can see. Maybe let's open up revenue as well, like this. And now we get a really detailed P&L statement, and all we had to do was go into the model, and I can show you here. Under accounts, we have this category class column that holds our encryption that tells Power BI, or well, Zebra BI, how to value certain accounts. So a minus here would mean, of course, that this account is negative. A blank would mean it's positive, and a equal sign would mean that, of course, this is a result. And Zebra BI can get all of this from your data model, so you pretty much only have to add one column to your reports, and then you can build as many income statements as you want by simply dragging a single field. Alright, so we've built a P&L, but now of course we want to do variance analysis. So for that we have to go back to our visual, and it's as simple as just taking our plan data and putting it into our plan placeholder. There we go. And we get all of this information, of course, again, calculated and visualized, just a drag and drop. We can also get rid of this plan column right here to make a little bit more space for our analysis. And just like that, we can already see that revenue-wise, we're performing above plan, while research and development is our biggest outlier versus plan. So what I think could help us here is maybe calculating also operating income margin. So let's add it here. We're going to move to operating income, right click, and we can simply add a formula. This opens up a new field where you don't have to write in DAX or anything, but pretty much make something like you would be used to in Excel. Let me show you. So first let's just name it. There we go. Operating income margin. And now it asks us to put in the variables. So we can just start writing for the variables operating income. There we go. And then we're just going to divide it. So we're going to use a dividing sign, right? And our revenues, of course, because this is how operating income margin is calculated. We're going to add also that this is a percentage, right? And maybe let's change the color a little bit. We're going to use some blue. Something like this should be fine. There we go. So we know that it's an added calculation. And we're simply going to add this onto the chart. There we go. And as you can see, Zebra BI added this operating income margin straight to our chart. And you can also see that it calculated also the difference in percentage point, right? So it actually calculated the variance as well. And if I'd add back, if I can go here and add back our planned column, you can see that it also calculated the operating income margin for our plan. So of course that we can have this variance. Okay, I'll hide this column again because we don't need it. We can see our variance here, right? So we can now interpret this to, let's say, something like this. Well, that although our revenues increased and gross profit improved, the rise in research and development cost really kind of compress the operating income margin, right? As we can see, because it's lower than planned. So this suggests that the company is reinvesting more into product development. Potentially, we're sacrificing some short-term profitability for some future growth. Great. And now that we know this, it would be great to really add a comment, so to explain a couple of these things, right? Why is this actually happening? So now we can go back into our visualization and our data, and you can see that I have our comments here as well that are from the data model. So up to now we went here to annotations and we simply added a comment, right? However, we can also do this in a different way. If we have, let's say, a comments table like we have here, these are our comments in a table, and we can simply go back to our visualization, take our comments measure, and put it here into the comments placeholder. Put this in, and there we go. Look, Zebra BI already knows that certain accounts on certain time frames have certain comments to give more context. And now to see them, we can go here into the visualization pane and toggle on the comments box. There we go. We're going to make the comments box a little bit smaller, something like this, so we still have enough room for our visualizations. And I would say that with this, our P&L statement is complete, and I would argue that it's so good that you could get even non-financial individuals really understanding what's going on with your finances. Now, before we go off from our financial statements, let me just say that, of course, we also built a balance sheet to which we also get all the variances calculated and visualized, and also our cash flow. There we go. With, of course, even the comments. So with this, with one simple procedure, you've built all of your most important financial statements in a very short time. For our final example, let's go back to our sales report and look at variance analysis on trends. And I think this is amazing because we can do it with small multiples. Let's build it. And for this demonstration, we're going to be using Zebra BI charts. There we go. Make them a bit bigger. Now we can start building the chart with our data. First of all, we're going to put our category here. And of course, for this, for trend analysis, we're going to use our months. There we go. And then we're going to add our actuals to values, just like this. All right. And we can see this is our revenue by months. Now, this is already looking okay, but let's add also our plan to get a little bit of a better understanding of what's going on. So now the variance analysis is already happening, and of course, if we click here, we can break the axis, which we indicate nicely, but we can get a better look at our variances as well. This really helps you when the variance versus your actuals is quite small, so you can really get to see everything perfectly and make the right decisions. But now we said we're going to use something called small multiples. Now, if we want to make small multiples, all we have to do is we have to group our visualizations by another dimension or measure. And for this, we're going to use our groups, our business unit groups. There we go. And what happened now, I'm just going to break the axis. I'm going to take away from breaking the axis just for a couple of seconds, so I can tell you a little bit more about small multiples. So why these are very important and why they're very good is not only because now you can see the trends for all of your business unit, but the business units are actually scaled by their size. So we can see that baby care is larger than wearables, and wearables is larger than mobile. And let's say that baby care, wearables, mobile, audio, and hair care are our most important business units. They bring in the most money, because then we can see that from hair care to video, things drop quite significantly. And of course, our computers, oral care and skin care are very small. Now, what we can do is we can also change the way that we see the small multiples right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here into the visualization pane under small multiples, and I'm going to change the layout from smart rows to auto. This is going to make the rows a little bit larger, but it's going to help us see our variances a little bit better. We still can't see them very good, but now if we break the axis like we did before, the story changes a lot, right? And again, we can see that with baby care, something was definitely going on in the summer months leading into autumn. But wearables, right, at the end of the year, second part of the year, doing very good. And of course, just like with other Zebra BI visuals, we can also add comments here via the annotation layer. So let's just maybe add one comment here in July for our wearables, simply that the strong growth was fueled by new product releases and higher consumer adoption, which will help people understand what's going on, like we did with all our other reports. Make the comment section a little bit smaller, and now we have a beautiful trend chart done with small multiples, ready for decision making. As an FP&A or sales analyst or any other kind of data analyst, I think you'll agree that variance analysis is the backbone that helps us really connect a number to a meaning, right? And from this, we can make better actionable decisions. And in today's time, analyst teams just don't have time for all the manual reporting. So with Zebra BI, in Power BI, you can create all of these automated, very quick and clear reports that you can use to really communicate your data effectively. And if you want to do this, go to zebrabi/trial and sign up for the free trial. Start using Zebra BI today. I've got an even better idea for you though. If you go down into the description below, you can simply download all of our templates. They're all free and just take all the credit for a lot less work. Well, whichever you decide is going to be great for your business long term. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.